Hey guys, Scriptripper here with another video, and obviously we're going to review episode 4 of Skeleton Crew, and took a downward turn from, I felt like episode 2 wasn't too bad, it was decent show at that point, and episode 3 took a bit of a dive with some nonsensical stuff. We'll see how this goes. Let's get into it. So, I'm a little confused right off the hop here. So they arrive at this At-Atten place, and from what I understand, like, there's this, like, barrier. I don't know, I saw a lot of, like, what appeared to be security or some sort of space stations all around the planet. I would think those would be there to preserve this whole thing about no one leaving, coming and going kind of thing. I can kind of get them leaving, but coming back, I expected some sort of resistance from... It just seems weird to me that there was no, like, security or no clearance or no one saying anything to them or no one hailing them on the comms. They just sort of just went in, and it's like, well, if this is such a massive thing, like protecting this whatever's on this planet, and no one comes and goes, you would think there'd be some sort of scanning or something to prevent them from just waltzing right back. And again, you had all of those little space stations all there. You'd think they're sort of monitoring, but no, they just kind of just flew down. It's kind of weird. Okay, so they arrive on the planet, and one thing I kind of find kind of weird too is that we're in episode 4 and they're already back here. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of expected this to be like more of a Lost in Space, take a little longer. Where did they stop? They stopped at the pirate spaceport. From there, they went to the Owl Ladies, and now they're here. So they really didn't go on like a bunch of adventures to get back home, which, I don't know, I thought there could have been more done there. And again, you get this is an Earth playground. They didn't bother to, like, change anything to make it Star Wars-y. Look at it. It's just an Earth playground from the 80s. There's nothing different at all. The slide looks exactly the same. The little spinny Rooney thing is the same. I mean, you gotta at least try and make it seem like it's in a galaxy far, far away, but they really didn't bother with that at Atten. Some people are theorizing there's some explanation for that this maybe is Earth or something like that, and I don't want that. I don't want Earth to be in Star Wars, please no. And so now we're getting into what appears to be some level of time travel. So they're in a neighborhood that's obviously derelict, rundown, overgrown. Looks like maybe there was some form of conflict, and then everything was just abandoned, and so now we're getting into what appears to be a time travel situation. Oh, I hope they don't screw this up. This is just... They're probably going to. I don't want time travel in Star Wars. That also answers the question as to why they weren't hailed, why nobody bothered to stop them from entering. Okay, so then the droid tells Shmi, SM-33 tells Jod that this is at Akron, and that this isn't at Atten. And so the kids were already kind of wondering if they're on a different planet other than their home planet, what had happened. I'm really glad it's not time travel. I hope that's true, because time travel would suck. And so now it's like, so they made all these planets like the Owl Lady talked about, but they all kind of made them the same kind of settlements, same suburby, whatever. Anyway, they're building the mystery boxes. Hopefully they answer. I think they probably will. I don't think it's going to be a J.J. Abrams situation. Yeah, so kind of interesting. So the Owl Lady didn't send them to the right planet. Almost like, did she know she was doing that? Or did she just screw up and put the wrong coordinates? So at this point, Jod's in the ship, and he's trying to jog Shmi's memory, whatever that's going to mean, to try and get him to remember At-Atten. Kind of alludes to the fact that he has been there. Well, he has obviously been there, but it kind of alludes to the fact there's a way to find out from him. It's in his memory bank somewhere, it's hard to say. And then the kids are just sort of running around on this wasteland of what appears to be At-Atten, but is not. So then they're running around, and they see a statue with no head, and all of a sudden there's, like, kids with guns. Wondering who they are. Okay, well, whatever. We'll see what this is. Okay, and then this other other military group, which appears to be adults, shows up. Okay, alright. So basically they're caught up in whatever's going on between these kids and these adults, I guess. Okay, so the little girl takes them to her dad, and I guess so it's not kids versus adults, it's just she's a kid, and there's a few kids, and he's the general or whatever of this other group, this rival group, who lets his daughter go running around with another tribe, I guess, that's got literal, like, tanks and stuff, and he lets his daughter go running around on her own. It's weird, or with one other kid. Again, this is something I talked about on Twitter. Like, the lighting is awful. And I don't know why they keep doing this. This is just awful to watch. This scene in particular. The lighting is absolutely terrible. Why does Disney keep having such bad lighting? I don't understand. And then the dad's like, then they're like, we're kids. He's like, are you warriors? We're kids. And then he's like, on this world, we treat our children like adults. Which is a little off-putting, I'm not going to lie. That's a little weird. How encompassing is that? I don't know. I was also just thinking this dad and his daughter, they have French accents. I was thinking back to all the different Star Wars stuff, and I'm like, has there ever been French accents? They've used a lot of accents. I don't know if they've ever used French. I could be wrong, but let me know in the comments section. But so now they're talking about some sanctuary, and there's apparently some engravings, and it's getting to be a little video game-ish now, because we're saying, well, we just got to find the next map, and then find the next map, and find the next map. I mean, I did say earlier it felt like it was too easy when they were getting there after 3 episodes. So I don't mind that there's more stuff going on. Hopefully there's some sort of compelling add-ons to just sort of going to the next thing to finally figure out your way home. Hopefully that's the case and it's not just a video game. So now the main guy's like, you have to go train with my soldiers to brave the fallen Sanctum. So I guess this episode's just going to be like them training and then probably have some kind of conflict with the other tribe or whatever, which was in the promo shots, them all holding those weapons, remember, on that dreary, poorly lit, gray, crappy planet. It feels like a filler episode, I'm just saying. Judd or whatever his name is, I already forgot. Crimson Jack, whatever, gets found by the other tribe, and they've got him now, and then Neil is, like, doing the whole, like, I don't want to do this, I'm too scared thing. And French chick is talking to him about it. I mean, you kind of knew at the beginning that was going to be the development for his character. He was going to go from the scared little guy to less scared or show some act of bravery. It's something we've seen a million times, but it's in the Star Wars universe. So they have their, like, base or, like, setup on the roof of the school. And initially I was like, that's pretty dumb. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, it's probably because none of these people have any operating ships that could, like, because I'm thinking, like, dude, they just fly over you and bomb you. But they must not have any ships. Now, if it turns out there's ships, it's going to be a really dumb strategy to put your base on top of the school. Then she talks about how they're going to have a battle with them because they stole a herd of whatever those cow-looking whatever things are, and they got to go in and take them back. So they're setting up. The kids are going to be in this battle, and Neil's going to have to show his bravery. And again, it looks like a character development episode, but it also looks kind of fillery and boring. So far, it kind of is. We're like halfway done already. And then Neil sees these 2 little kids that look homeless, but everyone looks homeless, but they look more homeless somehow. And then he brings them over. He's like, are you guys hungry? And he gives them his food. And they start mowing down, and you're like, doesn't everybody get their daily ration? Isn't that what's their name just said? So what, they have like kids that don't get food? Like, they just let them sit on the side and not get food? What is this? Okay, so then she shows him the anti-aircraft artillery massive unit they have. So okay, there we go. So explained why they would put their base up on a school roof. And sort of alludes to the fact that that's what's kept them safe. I guess the other tribe doesn't want to mess with them with this massive gun. And then there's like a pretty long, drawn out dialogue with Neil and the girl. And it's just pretty much pointless and boring. And at one point he's trying to explain the game that they play. He's like, it's a ball game. And instead of actually explaining it, he just waves his hands around and then says, I'm really good at it. Like, the dialogue was like, what? It just was weak, and it was predictable, and it was just saying basically the same things over and over that we already know. So that was dumb. Again, feeling like a filler episode, 100%. And then, in a case of extreme irrationality, the dad, the leader guy, says that after whatever this was, a few hours of these kids shooting guns in a little bunker thing, that they're going to lead his warriors into battle to get their stolen cattle. Because that makes perfect rational sense to have these random kids that just held a weapon for the first time lead you into battle. I get it. It's kid stuff. But at the same time, even a kid would know, like, are you guys nuts? We should be at the very back or off to the side. You know, go hide, shoot whoever you can see, not lead you into battle. It's just corny, and again, I know it's a kid's show and stuff like that, but you do have to have at least a little bit of, like, how did this guy become the leader of this clan if he's that stupid? That's pretty dumb, too, is, like, so, like, they're leading them and, like, scouting ahead or whatever, but, like, what kind of a strategy is this? You're literally walking down the middle of the road. You're just walking down the middle of the road. Like, there could be guys on the rooftops ready to snipe you. There could be any measure of things. It's smoky. You can't really see very well. If they're elevated, they'll be able to see you. This is the dumbest strategy to raid these guys ever. Why would you do this? And then Neil's all scared. And then the guy's daughter's like, I'll go with you. And the dad's like, no. And then she's like, he needs a friend or whatever. And then he's like, okay, go. And it's like, so now you're going to send your daughter? Like, it's one thing, okay, I kind of get, like, maybe these kids are, like, expendable to you. So it's like, send them out front in this dumb strategy to get blasted. And then you can find out where the enemy is. But now you're like, yeah, you go too, daughter. He just, like, sends his own daughter out on this ridiculously dumb strategic plan with these kids. Oh, man. Child soldiers, awesome. That's what we want. It's just like... oh, boy. Okay, so then out of nowhere, Jod's there and has all their animals and is like, here, these are yours. That was anticlimactic. There's a lot of build-up for just that, but okay, whatever. At least poor Neil didn't have to... Poor Neil didn't have to fight. And as it turns out, Jod did not perform some brave feat. All he did was he took the credits for that Win had and just basically bought the herd. So, which is kind of cool. Like, I like that they're leaving it open-ended about the whole Jedi thing, and I think I like that kind of pirate angle, and again, the characters themselves I don't mind, but this episode's a pretty slow drawl. It's a character development episode. Fern, trusts him now and is softening and not being as much of a snarky, like, I know it all, bad boss girl. Not a lot of development with the KV, is it? KD? KD. KV, the girl with the eye things. But she was a really good aim. She had really good aim with the gun. I don't know. Maybe her character's going to develop later in the show. But again, it's a pretty slow draw this episode. And there's some kind of dumb stuff. But, I mean, it's not good. It's not really bad either so far. It's just meh. So then they see the fallen Sanctum. That's where they're headed now. And then one of the kids talks about how it's a tower at home that no one's allowed into. And so a lot of people suspect that's where, like, the main guy who controls everything in the city or whatever is. I'm guessing they're going to get some clues as to what their planet's like by getting up into the Sanctum and finding something. It's quite predictable. It's a predictable show. Whatever. Hopefully they get to where they need to go to a little quicker than the last 20 minutes of the show. We'll see. And then another weird kind of conversation with Neil and the girl. Like, all of a sudden she's like, oh, I can't go any further. I gotta go back. And he's like, oh, come with us to Ad-Atten. And you're like, whoa, where did that come from out of nowhere? Like, there wasn't really... And then they have this little thing, and it draws out, and then she says, oh, you taught me about peacefulness. You're right, we could use that, and then kisses him and leaves. And it's like this... It's supposed to be this dramatic scene, but it wasn't really earned. Like, just because you had one dramatic, or sort of dramatic, long, drawn-out conversation 15 minutes ago, doesn't make this mean anything to me. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, the girl's going home now. You've known each other for a day. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, those types of moments have to be earned over time, and you're not going to do that in a 15-minute time period on a TV show. So this is kind of lame and kind of pointless. And then we have a very Goonies scene where they go up the tower and they start wiping off dust and seeing coordinates to all these planets, all the at planets. And I suspect this is where they're probably going to run into that creature that was in the trailer. Remember the octopus looking thing or whatever? So, very Goonies, brush the dust off. Not just Goonies, like lots of movies have done this. So, again, whatever, they're trying to find the coordinates to Ad-Atten. And somebody slashed the Ad-Atten coordinates so they can't find them. So we're going to have to go on to the next place to find the next thing. Very video gamey. Okay, well, whatever. And then the droid, SM-33, says that he's the one who smashed it. And then they're like, why would you smash the coordinates? And he's like, what coordinates? To Ad-Atten. I don't know no Ad-Atten. So he's all confused. His programming's all screwed up. And then Fern freaks out and runs away all sad. Basically. So he was involved in this. So whoever his captain was involved in this. So kind of like how Neil has his little like character development moment where he overcomes some amount of fear. Now Fern's having her I suck. This is her like humility moment. So she's crying and I suck and I made all these bad decisions. Even though you had the title captain, but you weren't really making that many decisions. Things kind of were just happening and you kind of had to deal with it. But whatever. So it's not exactly like a real good character growth, because again, as the audience, you're looking at it going like, what choice did you have? Like, what were you going to do? You kind of had to do all the things you did. So yeah, whatever. It's again another kind of long drawn out conversation, but at least it's only one, whereas with Neil it was two. Neil didn't really need to have that. He just needed to overcome his fear. Anyway, for her it makes a little more sense, but just character development episode, I guess, that's kind of drawn out and slow. So then Fern has this like epiphany where, wait a minute, maybe Shmi has been programmed not to reveal what he knows about Ad-Atten. And so she says, I'm your captain. She says to the other girl, I tell my droid at home to deprogram and reprogram all the time and whatever. So she does that. She says, I'm your captain. Reset or reprogram all the, about Ad-Atten. And then he explains that it was his captain that slashed the coordinates to Ad-Atten. And he told, and he said that anyone who tried to figure it out were killed. And then he said, if anyone ever poked around about Ad-Atten in the future, I'm supposed to tear them apart. And then he gets all big and mad and he's going to tear apart the girls. So you're starting to put all the pieces together. So the captain got the coordinates, got greedy, took I guess a handful of guys, because there was like a couple skeletons or 3 or 4 skeletons in the ship, and went there himself to take all the treasure instead of sharing it with the other pirates. Very piratey, very kind of, yeah. And then, so Shmi's going after them. They fall on the ground, and it's all big and scary. And he keeps saying, tear them limb from limb. This is very kid stuff. And then Neil has his hero moment and throws a rock at his head and gets his attention away from his friends. And then Jod runs out and slaps the off button on Shmi's back before he can get to Neil. Then Neil faints, and that's it. That's the end of the episode. Really anticlimactic ending. That was a bad spot to end the episode. They needed to do something else. Because we all know he fainted. He's not dead or anything. So there's no That was a bad way to end it. Overall, lighting was terrible for most of the episode, really bad. And I don't know if that's because they're using the volume, and the volume tends to have bad lighting. We saw that with Mando, we saw that with Ahsoka, we saw that with Kenobi. I don't know why they keep doing this. The lighting was just awful. And what's really weird about that, too, is like when George did the prequels, everything was green screen. Like, so much of it was green screen, but the lighting was still good. So how about instead of doing the volume, why don't you just do the green screen? Are you telling me that the green screen is more expensive? Like, look at what they're spending on these shows. How could it possibly get more expensive? Overall, the lighting was bad. The characters were fine, like usual. I like them, but the episode dragged on. It was very fillery. You could have done that character development much quicker. Fern's experience was quick and good. Neil's, they just dragged it on. I understand he's the cute guy, little sell your plushie of Neil. But they really dragged that out. The episode accomplished very little in a really, really long period of time, right? Because they land, they get involved with these tribes, and in the end it didn't matter. And then they go and find out. So essentially the whole episode is we find out this little bit of information that SM-33 gives them at the end, right? About his captain breaking the thing so they don't know the coordinates, and yada, yada, yada. And again, I go back to it, was the owl lady messing with them to send them to the wrong one? I don't know. Filler episode that was not done well. Is it a type of thing that makes me hate the show? No. I mean, it wasn't lore breaking, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what we're getting at now, like with Kenobi lore breaking, Acolyte lore breaking. It kind of reminded me of some of those filler episodes in Ahsoka, which is just boring, and not a whole lot happens except sort of a minor amount of character development and a lot of chit chat and really nothingness. So it's kind of a just waste of time. And I don't know how Disney's gotten to this point. They've done this now multiple times where they somehow can't write an 8-episode show that each episode is compelling. Like, you're talking about like 4 hours or so worth of show. Somehow they take a 4-hour show and only an hour and a half to 2 hours of it is actually necessary to tell the story and be fun to watch. But they seem to want to drag it out. And that is a Filoni staple. He did it with the Clone Wars. He's done it with other stuff. He loves the filler episodes. But you shouldn't need filler. Like, I can kind of get some amount of filler in a Clone Wars show where you're under contract to do however many 18 or something, 20 episodes a season. You know, I get it. There's going to be a degree of filler, and you kind of go into it knowing that. But when you're only doing 8 episodes and you're filling, that's lame. You know, and now it's on to the next thing to get the next clue, and really very little, if anything, happened at all. We waited a half an hour to hear 3 lines of dialogue from the droid. That's literally all it was. So, pretty crappy episode, guys, I gotta be honest. This one's like a 2. Literally. Like, again, I like the characters. I like Fern's little development there. All that's fine, but... So it went from a 3 to... What did I give episode 2? Like a 5. Episode 3 I gave a 4, I think, or 3. This is like a 2. So we're looking at like a 3.5 out of 10 this show right now. Yeah, hopefully it gets better. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.